Okay, video solutions for Unit 2 Roots and Radicals, the homework packet. And I'm only going to do 10 and 11 because I did 1 through 9 and some of 10 in school. So this is finding the square roots of large, perfect squares. Okay. So it says simplify each square root. So we know that they're perfect squares because we've already established that. So what you have to do is use the knowledge that you gained through 1 through 9 and the patterns on those tables to find each part of the square root, the tens part and the ones part. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to look at those last two digits and think of those as zeros. Okay, then we're going to look at the 28. And what we're going to do is we're going to say to ourselves, what number multiplied by itself is less than 28 and what number multiplied by itself is more than 28? Because we have to find a range. So 5 times 5 is 25, so that's less than 28. And 6 times 6 is 36. That's more than 28. Now we know these are in the thousands, so according to our table, if we just add zeros here and square these, we would get 50 squared is 2,500 and 60 squared is 3,600. We know that 2809 falls between them. Okay, so we know our square root has to be between 50 and 60. Okay, next, we know that this last digit 9 is derived by multiplying the ones place digit in a multiplication problem. For example, if I do 36 by 36 over here, when I multiply 6 by 6, I get 36. That 6 goes there. Now if I continue and finish this out, you'll notice that when I move over to multiply by 3, I leave a space there. So when I finish this out, I'm going to get a 6 still in the ones place. So over here, that 9 in the ones place comes from these two numbers being multiplied together, and I take their last digit, in this case the 6, from the 36. So what number times itself would give us a 9 at the end? Well, 3 times 3 would, and 7 times 7 would, because 7 times 7 is 49. You have a 9 at the end. So we know that our answer either has to be 53 then, or 59. And then the last thing you do is to see which one is. You look at the actual square and see, is it closer to the 2,500, which would be closer to 50, or is it closer to 3,600, which is closer to 60? Well, you can see it's only about 300 away here, but almost 800 here. So it's closer to the 2,500, which means it's closer to 50, which means our answer has to be 53. And then you can go ahead and check that if you want. 53 times 53 will equal 2809. Now we use that same model for each of the rest. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the last two, and we're going to look at the 79. What two numbers multiplied together will give us less than 79 and more than 79? So that would be 8 times 8 will give us 64, and 9 times 9 will give us 81. We know this is in the thousands right here, so these have to be 80 and 90. If we go ahead and square them, we get 6,400 and we get 8,100. We know then that 7921 is between them, so you got to check that to make sure you got the right numbers. All right, next we look at the last digit. We need a 1. So what times what would give us a 1 when you multiply? Well, 1 times 1 would, and 9 times 9 would, because it's 81. There's a 1 at the end. So we know that it's going to either be 81 or 89. Okay, now look at your actual square, and is it closer to 6,400 or 8,100? Well, it's about 1,500 away here and only 200 away here. So obviously it's closer to the 8,100, which means it's closer to 90, which means 89 has to be our square root. Okay, here we're going to get rid of the 84 to begin with, and we're going to look at 4. So we know what times what would give us a 4. Well, it's going to be 2 or a 3. Okay, so we know it's going to be between 20 and 30, which means it's be between 400 and 900. And our 484 does fall between there, so we're good so far. Okay, our last digit is a 4, so what times what gives us a 4 at the end? Well, 2 times 2, or 8 times 8, because that gives us 64. So we know our possible answers are 22 or 28. Well, 484 is much closer to 400 than 900, so that means 22 has to be the square root. Okay, this one comes just from your table. Those are already zeros. So what times what gives us 64? 8. And then we know there's 2 zeros, so 80 times 80 would give us those 2 zeros. So that was an easy one, came right from our table. Okay, 20, 25. So get rid of the last 2 and look at your 20. What times what is less than 24? And what times what is more than 25? These are in the thousands, so we know it's between 40 and 50. We know then if we square that, we get 1600 and 2500. Our 20, 25 falls between there. So we're good. Our last digit is a 5. There is only one number times itself that gives us a 5, and that is 5. So our answer can only be 45. Okay, 225, well, we should know that by heart. That's obviously 15. The square root of 225 is 15. Okay, 841. Well, take off the last 2 digits. Look at the 8. What times what is less than 8? Well, that would be 2, because 2 times 2 is 4. What times what is more than 8? Well, that would be 3, because that's 9. Okay, we know that we're going to add a 0 here, because 20 squared is 400, and 30 squared is 900, and 841 falls between there. So if we were just doing multiple choice, you know your answer has to be between 20 and 30, and you could use the elimination method to get rid of whatever answers aren't between 20 and 30. Our last digit ends in a 1, so we've already done that up here in this one. So we know it's either got to end in a 1 or end in a 9. So if it's between 20 and 30, it can either be 21 or 29. Well, 841 obviously is very close to 900, so our answer has to be 29. Okay, same thing here. All right, so that would be 9 times 9 is 81, and 10 times 10 is 100. So that's going to either be between 90 and 100. This then would be 8100 if we squared it. Okay, and then this would be what? A 1 with 2 zeros, but then 2 zeros again because you're multiplying it by itself. So that's between 10,000. 9,409 is between there, isn't it? So we're good. Our last digit is a 9. So what times what gives us a 9? Well, it's either going to be a 3 times 3 or a 7 times 7. So our answer can either be 93 or 97. Well, 9,400 is 1,300 away here, but only 600 away from 10,000. So it's closer to the 10,000. So our answer must be closer to 100, which makes it the 97. Okay, get rid of those two. What times what is going to be 9? Well, it's going to either be a 3, but since we're a little bit more, we have a 4. So it's going to be between 30 and 40, which is between 900 and 1,600. We know that 961 should fall between there, and it does. We're ending in a 1, so it can either be 1 times 1 or 9 times 9, because that gives us a 1 at the end. Remember, 9 times 9 is 81. So it can either be 31 ending in a 1 or 39 ending in a 9. 961 is awfully close to 900, which is close to 30 squared, which means our answer has to be the 31. Okay, last one on this part. So we're looking at 43. So 6 times 6 gives us 36. 7 times 7 gives us 49. We know we're in the thousands, so it's got to be 60 and 70. This then would be 3,600. This then would be 4,900. Double check that you have the right numbers there by putting this square in between them and see if it falls correctly. Yep, 4356 falls between there. Ends in a 6. So what times what gives us a 6? Well, that would either be a 6 or a 4, right? Because 4 times 4 is 16. So in this case, it can end in a 4 or it can end in a 6. So these are really close. So 4356, if I were to subtract here, okay, would leave us 756 here. Okay, but if I were to subtract here, that would leave us 544. So it's a little bit closer to the 4900, which means it has to be closer to the 70, which means 66 is our answer. Okay, so let's do a few more. Okay, get rid of the 31. 7 times 7 is 49. 8 times 8 is 64, so that's going to be 70 or 80. This is 4,900. That's 6,400. 5,041 is between there. Ends in a 1. So we know our answer between 70 and 80 can either be ending in a 1 or ending in a 9. 5,041 is very close to 4,900. It's 1,400 away here, so it's closer to the 70, which means our answer has to be 71. So you can do this without a calculator. This is what you'll be expected to do on the quiz on Friday. Okay, so we have a 12. So we know that's between 3 squared and 4 squared, because that's 9 and 16. So 30 and 40, because we're in the thousands, means we have 900 here and 1,600 there. Double check that you have those right. Does 1296 fall between there? Sure does. We're ending in a 6. So we know that it can either be 4 times 4 or 6 times 6. So it can end in a 4 or end in a 6. Well, 1296 is 396 away here, and it's 304 away here. So it's just about in the middle, but it's a little bit closer to the 1,600, which means it's a little bit closer to the 40, which means 36 is the square root. Okay? Okay, we have 84. So I know that's between 9 and 10. So it's between 90 and 100. So that's going to be 8,100 there and 10,000 there. Double check. Does 8464 land between there? Okay, yes it does. Ends in a 4, so we know that has to be either 2 times 2 or an 8 times an 8. So our square root can end in a 292 or end in an 898. What's it closer to? Well, it's 364 away here, but it's about 1,500 some away here. So it's obviously closer to the 8,100. Our answer has to be closer to 90, which makes 92. So I'll do 2 more. Okay, get rid of the 25 at the end. 30. So we know that's going to be between 5 and 5. That's 25. And 6 and 6 is 36. We're in the thousands, so we have to have 50 or 60. That's going to be 2,500. That's going to be 3,600. Double check. Does 3025 fall between there? Yes, it does. We're ending in a 5, and we know from a previous problem that the only number times itself that gets us 5 is 5. So we know that our answer has to be 55. So notice I'm doing the same thing every single time. Last one I'll do. Okay, we're looking at 37, so that means it has to be between 6 and 7, which makes it between 60 and 70. So that would be 3,600. That's 4,900. Does 37 fall between there? Yes, it does. So we're ending in a 1. So what times what gives us a 1? Well, 1 does, and the 9 does again. So we know our answer has to end in a 1 or end in a 9. Well, this is much closer to 3,600 than it is to 4,900, so that has to be our answer. So you can do F, G, H, I, and J on your own. Just remember, this is the main part of what you'll be doing on your quiz. Okay, good luck.